Welcome you tuning in to another edition of Goodness from the Goddess. It's my pleasure. My name is Kenya Pope, the Goddess Builder. And it's such an honor to have this platform, to be able to share goodness. You know, how many times in your life do you actually get the goodness, right? Probably, but right before you tuned into the program, there was some type of scenario to aggravate, unnerve, rustle your feathers, some disappointment, some letdown, some heartbreak. And it's just a pleasure to be in a space where you actually get access to the goodness of what God is, right? That's the goodness from the Goddess programming. My name is Kenya Pope, and I'm a guide for soul-centered entrepreneurs. So this is for you if you're a money-making mogul on a mission to make a difference. If you have decided that you're going to make a shitload of money while making an earth-shattering difference, then this is for you. Because I even love saying it together. Making a shitload of money while making an earth-shattering difference. Because what it does energetically is shift the slavery context, release the holds of the glass ceiling, and actually allows new possibilities and new neurons to connect within the subconscious, that these two can actually formulate together and live in the same petri dish. So, who am I? I am, a woman that runs with wolves, right? I like to say that because I have boy children, right? All of my children are boys, both of them. Actually, I only have 2 children. I was born among 2 brothers, and my brother has boys. So I am a woman that runs with the wolves, so to speak. I'm one of the women who understand how it is to be, assertive and resilient and persistent, and sometimes to a fault. So in my life, I've had to really learn the practice of letting go and walking away, because it was sort of built into my DNA at that point. Right? My cells had assumed the role of supporting me with this intention that loyalty was important and my strength was going to show up by sticking it out. How many of you have been there? A lot of you listening to me have. So generally, I speak to women entrepreneurs, but I know that there's some brothers who feel the message as well. And I'm so honored by that, because I understand why the male and female energy is synergistic. And I'm so honored that the brothers feel that they are welcomed, because you really are. And my message is still specifically catered to women. So with that being said, as women, we have assumed over time a role that is subpar to our divine gifts. And when we want to begin activating our divine gifts in order to leverage our talents into currency and create a dynamic lifestyle, there are mental blocks created from some point in the past. And so that some of those blocks show up in this assumed personality trait, like the one that I was mentioning, where we've created this archetype of strength that's described by sticking through the BS and being loyal to it and being persistent enough to stick with it. And that has caused lots of problems, right? For me, that caused problems in emotional relationships as well as with my money. It caused problems in the way that I viewed myself and what I tolerated in my family. It caused problems with barriers and boundaries that were respectful and healthy. And it caused problems with my weight. There were so many imbalances that all led back to this one particular point. And so as we move into the new moon of March 8th, I really invite you to consider where your largest block is. Maybe this is your particular block. That no matter how many times you set an intention and you step forward, there is a part of you that subconsciously is speaking louder than your intention. And that part of you is saying, no, there's no reason for you to leave this job. You are not allowed to leave this job. Because leaving this job undermines everything that we've worked for, and you are not a quitter. There's that voice inside that might say the same thing for the house that you live in, or the romantic relationship that you're in, or even for deciding to switch fields in your career, or to switch interests in your study. That there is a part of you that has shut down the dreamer. And that part of you is very adamant, very even stubborn. And I'd like to call it the resistance sister. So I want you to sort of identify who your resistance sister is. For me, my resistance sister was don't say no. You remember Nancy Reagan, just say no? Or was it even Nancy Reagan? Don't quote me on that. But remember, just say no. My resistance sister was don't say no. Do not say no. Do not say no. And what that became was always say yes. Now, there's a difference in saying yes to your intentions and saying yes to your vision and saying yes to your divine gifts and yes to your purpose and yes to living a life of your destiny where you are the seat and the director of the ship. There's a difference in saying yes, yes. But this, in always saying yes, was constantly sapping my power, constantly sapping my integrity, constantly sapping my self-view and my vocal chakra. There was such a loss. Tremendous loss of power for me with always saying yes to everyone else. It created such a spinoff that I didn't recognize the difference between my thoughts and other people's voice. And I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what color I liked. I didn't know what school I liked. I didn't know what... My answer would always be, I really don't know. And I would go through coaching programs and training programs and leadership programs. And I would say, I don't know. I didn't have a course of action for myself. So it put me at resistance. It put me at the effect of whatever was presented on the table. So I never ordered anything at the restaurant. I sat at the restaurant, waited for them to pick something for me, cook it, prepare it, place it on the table, and then I could reject it. That's the kind of life that I lived. And for the most part, I didn't reject it because I felt beholden to the chef for making me this meal. So I would eat it, swallow it, and let it live in my belly. That was my resistance sister. So as we begin, that's the first step. I'd love for you to consider this. Who's your resistance sister? Or for the brothers, who's the hold up partner? Who's that part of you that's saying, hold up, time out. Hold up, no. Hold up, you need to look at this way. How can you be conscious and be interested in making money? Hold up. So until you identify which part of you is resisting your vision, you'll not be able to make a decision of choice. So that's your first step. I invite you to explore this and bring it with you along with your intention to our first new moon manifestation, March 8th. To register for the program, registration is still open. Please visit facebook.com/goodness from the goddess. It's been my pleasure, my absolute honor to be with you for just a moment as we prepare for this amazing time to be in sacred success circle so that your wildest dreams can actually become the way that you see life. My name is Kenya Pope, and you can find more about me on facebook.com/Kenya Pope or instagram.com/goddessbuilder. I'm Kenya Pope, the Goddess Builder. Be well with all the love and light.